Hey, it's Talish at Printify, and I'm back with our design expert, Emma, who's here to share some more tips about the creative process. Emma, thanks so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
We're here to talk about inspiration, what to do when that well of creativity seems like it's dried up in your head, or maybe you're just looking to kickstart your imagination to make something new. And Emma, I know as a professional designer, this is probably a feeling that's not unfamiliar to you. So where do you start when you're looking for inspiration?
Of course, everybody knows the feeling of wanting to create something but not knowing where to start. So as a designer, I primarily use Dribbble, Behance, Pinterest for all of my inspiration needs, but actually social media has become a really fun tool as well. And I've gotten the opportunity to discover new illustrators, new designers by accident on social media all the time, which has proven to be really cool.
So what differentiates these platforms from something like Pinterest or just browsing on social media?
Well, all of these platforms are free, which is great. It means that they're accessible to designers and non-designers alike. But definitely Behance and Dribbble are more design and community centric. So they act more as platforms for people to showcase their work and follow other artists that they love. Whereas Pinterest is definitely more versatile. Pinterest, has a kind of a weird reputation among people. You don't really think of it as a designing tool, but it really is, It's not just barn weddings and mason jars. It's a great place to source new typography, print, and packaging. So I love it. It's a great tool.
Let's talk about some of the artists who inspire you. Who do you follow?
Sure. So going back to social media, I follow a lot of different accounts other than like my mom and my friend's dog. So the one thing I like about social media before I get started is that it allows you to follow not just people, like individuals, but entire brands and agencies as well. So you get this whole breadth of information. You have the whole world at your fingertips. And with that, it's important that when you're an artist and you're seeking information and inspiration, that you follow artists from anywhere and everywhere, especially artists that create things similar to you, but also very dissimilar and very different from the things that you do. Because unknowingly, your breadth and your horizon as an artist will be widened and will be broadened, and you'll be inspired more so than if you limit yourself to just creators who are just like you. There's this really wonderful illustrator named Felicia Chow. She's gotten a lot of fame recently because of her work that she did during the pandemic. Very fun, very cute, very, very relatable, all about being in confinement and how mentally that affects all of us. Another artist I follow is Karabo Poppy. She's amazing. She's she's teamed up with KFC South Africa, and she's designed her own chicken bucket. And it's like sick too. It's so cool. And another designer I follow is Damien Orellana. He's a Brooklyn-based designer, and he does really, really cool stuff with like vector illustrations, so pins and stickers and stuff like that. Really fun caricatures, super original. 10 out of 10 recommend his work.
So we actually asked our design team for some recommendations on artists who they follow. So if you want to check that out, go to the descriptions. And while you're there, leave us a like for this comment and make sure you ask Emma any questions that you have about the design process so far. So there's knowing who to follow, and then there's keeping up with trends. How do you go from one to the other?
Sure. So keeping up with trends, the way I look at it, keeping up with trends is just improving your own work. You wouldn't hop on a trend unless you felt that it was necessary to step up your own game and improve your own quality of work. So it just means prioritizing your own education when it comes to design, following artists who inspire you, and then also maybe it could be taking a class or attending conferences. I do it just by, I'm continuing my education every day. I'm attending conferences when I get the chance to, which is super fun. And then occasionally, I'll pop onto YouTube or Skillshare and do a refresher on programs that even though I use them every day, I might not know, every single ounce of information about them. There's a joke that every designer has that one tool in Adobe that you never quite learned how to master. So you just ignore it and pretend it's not there. But that's what I do. And naturally, if you continue following artists out there, you're going to see the trends happen, and it won't feel like work. It'll just feel like you're getting better.
So let's see if we can put all this together and come up with a product for the fall season, say candle jars. How would you get started with something like that?
Sure, candle jars is a great place to start, especially if you're, the upcoming fall season, you're going to want to add new things. So the first thing I would do, and since everyone's very familiar with it, is maybe start with Pinterest. Typically when I build a mood board, I'll hop around to different platforms because, why not? You get different content from everywhere.
Yeah.
But the thing I like about Pinterest is that it lets you categorize your mood boards. So you could start with one mood board and then have a bunch of subsections, which is very helpful, especially as a designer. So I would start with something like generic, like candle packaging.
Right.
And actually any packaging, because why limit yourself to just candles?
Right, exactly.
But it's helpful to start here so that you can kind of see what candles, if there's any candles here that are similar to the one that you're designing, because then it'll feel most, in line with your goal.
Right. It helps you look at the competition. But like, say for example, you want to go in a different direction. Can you kind of go even more generic? Like just look at labels in general?
Sure. What if we type in just packaging design? If we get rid of candle altogether and just go packaging design.
So there are tons more options, right?
Yeah. And these are great because, if you see something that's really cool, you should pause and say, well, why do I think that's really cool? Like, I don't know, for instance, I think this illustration of this fish is really awesome. Maybe not for a candle, even though it says candle fish. Right. But let's say I wanted to pin it anyway for the illustration alone. I could, create a board that's called Candle Jar Inspo.
Okay.
And then if I click the little arrow, I can be taken into my subfolder. So I'll just go ahead. Yeah.
So you've broken it down basically by the elements that you like, which is like your color, your illustration, your text.
Yeah, just to stay organized, because if you start going wild and pinning a bunch of things that you like, a week will pass and you'll go back and be like, why did I do all of this? What was it about these specific things that I thought was so cool?
Yeah. So then how do you go from organizing things into folders like that to then getting to products? Like how does that happen?
Sure. The mood board that you create for one specific product is obviously going to be helpful for designing for that one thing, like a candle jar. But I don't delete my mood boards, because if you go back in and you have everything organized, you can actually use the same mood board to design for all sorts of other products as well. Like if you're, for instance, a candle label or candle packaging translates really easily over to like soap, because they're similar. They should be statement pieces in your home. They're not permanent, but they're also not very temporary either. Soap and candles tend to live in your house for quite a while.
Right.
So yeah, no, they're similar.
So that's why if you break them down into those folders, essentially you can just kind of go between each folders, create the combinations you want, and then it just feels like those products just kind of make themselves, or at least gives you options to make themselves.
Sure, and once you create your first, let's say candle jar label, you're gonna feel so much more ready and experienced to design the next thing. And if you pull the same elements and like design choices that you made with the candle jar into other things, eventually you're gonna have an entire line of products that are all cohesive and follow a similar theme, which is really cool when you go onto a store and everything seems like it's a collection rather than just random.
Perfect. So there you have it. Finding inspiration is kind of like refining your creative palette. You got to try a little bit of this, maybe a little bit of that, and what you're left with is a take that's entirely your own. Emma, thank you so much for doing this for us again.
No, thank you.
Emma will be back in the future for more design tutorials, so if you have any recommendations for her, leave us a comment below, and don't forget to subscribe to Printify for more content about print on demand.